Have you ever promised yourself you'll change, only to find yourself doing the same old things tomorrow and the next day and the day after that? You dream of success, of a better life. But somehow, every morning you choose comfort over action. This is the story of a young blacksmith who felt exactly like you, until one day, everything changed. Long ago, in a quiet village wrapped in green hills, clear rivers, and fields of golden wheat, lived a young blacksmith named Ethan. He was strong, sharp-minded, and talented with hammer and anvil. The villagers respected him and often said Ethan could craft the finest tools and blades in the whole region. But Ethan carried a weakness. He was a master at dreaming and a beginner at doing. Each morning he rose slowly, sipped his tea, and watched clouds drift across the sky. "I'll start tomorrow," he would say, "or maybe next week." And as the days passed, his goals stayed locked inside his imagination. His workshop was filled with bright iron, heavy hammers, and half-finished work. Orders kept piling up. Plows for farmers, swords for guards, repairs for neighbors. Everything waiting for Ethan's hands. Yet he delayed again and again, telling himself, "I'll do it when I feel ready." Some afternoons he sat by the river, staring at the flowing water, picturing the praise he'd receive if he ever truly committed. In his mind, he was already a famous blacksmith, admired, respected, celebrated. But when the sun began to fall, he returned home, having built nothing, whispering the same excuse. Tomorrow, for sure. One bright morning, Ethan's closest friend, Daniel, a hard-working farmer, visited the workshop. Daniel looked around at the unfinished tools and spoke gently. "Ethan, why do you keep waiting? You have real talent. If you finished your work, you'd help everyone, and you'd help yourself too." Ethan shrugged, lazy and calm. "I'll work when I feel like it," he replied. Daniel's expression turned heavy. "You're wasting your gift," he said. "One day you'll regret this. A dream without action is just a story you tell yourself." Ethan forced a small smile, but inside, guilt stung like a hot spark. He truly wanted to improve. He wanted to become someone great. Yet effort felt uncomfortable, and comfort felt easy. So he stayed stuck. Weeks rolled by, and the village began to lose patience. Farmers complained about late plows. Guards grumbled about missing swords. Even children whispered, "Why doesn't Ethan ever finish anything?" Then one day the village chief entered the workshop with a serious face. "Ethan," he said firmly, "your delay is hurting the village. Farmers can't work without tools. Repairs aren't being done. If you don't change, you will lose your place here." Ethan's stomach dropped. For the first time, he understood something painful. His big dreams meant nothing if he couldn't complete even one small task. That night, he sat alone beside a half-forged sword. Moonlight slid across the cold metal. Ethan stared at it and whispered, "I want greatness, but I can't even make myself move." The next morning, a stranger arrived. He was an elderly blacksmith named Samuel, known far and wide for his skill and wisdom. Samuel had heard about Ethan's talent and decided to see him with his own eyes. Samuel studied the workshop, then looked at Ethan. "You have ability," Samuel said kindly, "but talent alone never builds a great life." "Do you know what does?" Ethan shook his head, listening closely. Samuel smiled. "Discipline. It's like iron. You must hammer it every day, especially when your hands ache. That's how it becomes strong." He leaned in and spoke softly. "Start small. Work for 5 minutes. Then 10. Then 30. Show up every single day. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like weather. But action will carry you forward." Ethan decided to try. On the first day, he lifted the hammer with heavy arms. His hands felt stiff. His mind begged for rest. He wanted to stop, but he remembered Samuel's words. He worked for 5 minutes, then 10, then 30. By sunset, he completed a small plow. The next day was even harder. He wanted to sit outside and watch the clouds like always, but a new voice inside him said, Today, I show up, no matter how I feel. Slowly, Ethan started seeing tiny wins. The first sword he polished shone brighter than he expected. The farmer smiled with real relief when Ethan handed him a finished plow. Even the children stopped whispering and quietly cheered when they saw smoke rising from the forge again. Days turned into weeks. Every morning Ethan still felt resistance, but he pushed through it. Every evening he could point to progress. One tool repaired, one sword finished, one order completed. Momentum began to grow, and with each victory, his confidence returned. Months later, Ethan's workshop looked completely different. Finished tools lined the walls. Swords gleamed. Plows stood sturdy and ready. People from nearby villages began traveling just to see his work. More orders arrived than ever before. At last, Ethan's talent had caught up with his discipline. One evening, Samuel returned. He looked around the workshop and nodded. "Now tell me," he said, "do you feel the difference?" Ethan smiled, proud, calm, and honest. "Yes," he said, "it wasn't easy. Some days I wanted to quit. Some days I hated the work. But I forced myself to start, and now I feel strong. I feel alive. I finally feel like the man I always wanted to become." Samuel smiled back. "That is the power of discipline," he said. "Feelings change. Motivation disappears. But consistent action will always move you forward. Don't wait to feel ready. Become the person who works, even when it's hard." That's how greatness is created. Ethan learned a lesson that changed his life. You're not broken. You're not weak. You just need one small step, then another. Action creates momentum. Discipline builds character. And character builds a life you can be proud of. From that day on, Ethan became a symbol in the village, not only for his skill, but for his courage to fight his own laziness. And people still tell his story today, reminding everyone the road to greatness is never easy, but it is always possible. If you enjoyed this story and want more stories that inspire, motivate, and guide you toward a better life, hit subscribe to the Tales with English channel. Every story here can plant a new idea, teach a powerful lesson, and help you become the person your future self will thank you for.